What if your business isn't struggling because of your offer, but because the right people literally cannot find you anymore? Hey guys, welcome back to our Speaker Spotlight series for Scale Stability. Today's conversation is one that every business owner needs to hear if you want to be found, chosen, and paid in today's market. And at Scale Stability, for those that are watching, happening next week, we cannot wait. I cannot believe it's already next week. But we're not here to help you chase more. We're here to help you build better businesses that actually support your faith, your family, your health, your peace, not ones that drain it. And here's the reality. Getting customers isn't just about working harder anymore. The way people find businesses has completely changed. If you're still playing by the old rules, you might be invisible without even realizing it. And that's why I'm so excited for this conversation. Darin, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for being here with us. And in Arkansas for the first time ever. We were just chatting about you traveling. How many states have you traveled and speaking and just connecting with business owners?
I should have a map. You know, those maps where people get and they scratch off the states or whatever, they fill in the states. And I should have a map like that. I have probably been to, I don't know, maybe 35 various states and spoken at events and conferences over the course of the last decade or two.
That's crazy. And just to give everybody a little bit of intro here of who you are, you're an award-winning marketing and communication expert, and you've spent decades helping thousands of businesses get found online. And more importantly, I think, turn that visibility into real revenue. As a small business growth advisor at Thrive, you're known for making AI, search, and marketing actually make sense for everyday business owners, which I'm super excited. And you're also hosting a breakout session during our event called The 5 New Rules for Getting Found Online and How AI Can Solve That, which I cannot wait to hear more about this topic. I feel like you, especially since you're working with so many businesses, you have a specific angle there. You have seen the change and transition after working for decades, for business owners. But, it's going to be a big shift for businesses. So let's jump on that. I would love for you to share a little bit more about your background, Darin. What have you been doing all these decades working with businesses? Like, what's your experience behind the scenes working with supporting businesses?
Now you're starting to sound like my wife. Honey, what have you been doing lately? So for many years, I actually worked in the TV industry and worked with small businesses who would come on TV and get some marketing exposure. And I remember I was always so frustrated by these people who would come on and have, a couple minutes with this, limelight shown on them and everyone learning about their business. And then they would say, well, nothing really happened. And I would sometimes get frustrated because you didn't have anything set up to have something happen. You thought hey, I'm just on TV and look at me and everything's going to change. And it doesn't change, of course. So about 12, 13 years ago, I left that industry and started to get into, and I thought, first of all, I thought I'm going to be a speaker and a coach and a consultant and an author, and I'm going to reach out. I'm going to go and I'm going to speak to conferences, whatever. I actually spoke once to a high school organization, DECA. Do you know DECA, whatever? It's like occupational whatever stuff. And the state person, I was speaking at a state conference, and then she said, "Oh, this is so fantastic that you have got to speak to all of the DECA organization chapters. Every state has one. And here's my contact person. They're going to be able to get you in touch with all of it." So I reached out to the contact person. She's like, "I love you. I'm going to get you all the contact information for each of the 50 states." So I got them all, and I manually, physically typed in email to each of those 50 states saying, "Hey, I'd love to be able to come out and help it." And above those 50, I only heard back from one, and that was South Dakota. And then I reached out, and then nothing ever happened from South Dakota. So there's part of this struggle that every single business has, is we do something and we think, oh, this is going to change it. And it doesn't, because we don't have any systems in place. We don't have anything set up. I actually went to an event. Now you're thinking Darin, you're going way too long. I didn't expect you to answer the question this long.
No. I'm actually intrigued of the story. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I went to an event, and I heard someone speaking about marketing automation. and following up and and I thought, this is amazing. I love this whole message. I want to be able to teach people about this as well. And so I reached out to the guy. He's like, we need someone just like you. We need someone to be able to teach us marketing automation and the stuff. And he said, here's my contact, my boss's contact. So I reached out to him. He said, yeah. He said, we'd love to have you. But it was one of these things where they weren't quite ready. And so it was literally me. I didn't have marketing automation. I had to keep drip nurturing them. I had to keep reaching out to them. And it took like 9-10 months. And that's when I sort of realized that it doesn't happen instantly. Just because you reach out to someone, whatever your service, your product is, hey, here's how I can help you. It doesn't happen. That was a bad snap. That was a better one. That we sometimes have to follow, and we will never do that on our own. And so that's why there's software, AI, automation, all these tools to be able to do that, to help people nurture and follow up and turn your attention when people are interested with you, when they hear about you, how to turn that into money and growing your business.
I love that. We're going to go deeper into the session, but I can already tell that you're an energetic speaker, that people are going to be there and they're going to pay attention and they're going to get something out of the session just because of how entertaining you are. I love it. I'm excited. Now, as you're talking about all of these topics, or this specific topic, of capturing people's attention, and then what do you do after that, right? How do you convert that attention into something that's actionable, into an actual conversion, right? To become a client or whatever that the goal may be. What do you think has changed? What's changed most about how people are finding businesses today? Because we're in this whole AI transformation. Everybody can do a website now in a couple of minutes, or that's what they're telling you. What do you think has changed most about how people are finding businesses today?
I think the businesses don't realize what is happening, and they don't realize what they do. I think one of the biggest problems is when someone's Google, because people just do a Google search, and it sort of depends also on what people. If someone's looking for a coach or a consultant, they're going to look in a different way than if someone's looking for a plumber or a cake decorator or something. But oftentimes it starts with a Google search or a ChatGPT search, where someone asks a question. And one of the biggest changes right now is that people are asking real questions. So someone says, it might have been in the past, like someone's a plumber or looking for some plumbing, and they would type plumber into Google and then hope something shows up. And then the plumber near me type thing. And now they go into ChatGPT and they say, I got a clogged sink, and I need to find somebody who's a good person. And they actually ask real questions. And so the answers are coming back differently. So now we have ChatGPT and Gemini, and that's what we call answer engine optimization. We used to talk about search engine optimization, and we would talk about having SEO and being optimized for that. Optimizing now for answer engine, and this is just one small little thing, but one of the things you need to do is on your website and your content that you produce, you need to have questions written. So like saying, how do on your website, you could have frequently asked questions. How do I clear a clogged sink drain? So something, when then someone searches I need to have my sink drain, then the Googles, the ChatGPTs, the Geminis, they look and they find your exact wording. That's oh, here's exactly what these same words that someone asked in this question. We have greater confidence recommending this person as the one, because now you're getting me. I'm just going a million miles an hour here, Ken. I don't. But now when someone asks, they're not looking for give me 20 options, 20 different websites I can click on. They're looking for an answer. They want ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever the AI tool is to give them an answer and explain why. So you want to give ChatGPT, Gemini, Google, whatever, as much confidence as you can that you are the recommended pick. So if you ask questions in question answer form, that's one of the things that will greatly increase that confidence that ChatGPT or Gemini will recommend you.
As we're preparing for the event, a lot of our attendees they all come from different backgrounds, right? That's one of the cool things about Scale Stability, that we have plumbers, roofers, local services in general. And then right next to them, you're going to have a digital marketing agency. And it's a combination of people from different backgrounds. People are coming from Mexico, Canada, all over the US, and we're getting all together here. But, I'm curious about your thoughts for small businesses that, like how can they start positioning themselves as the trusted person, as you are. I think you mentioned like one of the many things that you probably have to do today. How can they become more of that trusted person when, let's say, at some point everybody's doing AEO? AEO is that acronym, right, of what you were just describing. What else can they do to position themselves as a trusted person in their space?
Yeah. And by the way, during our breakout, it is going to be super workshoppy. We're going to literally go through stuff and walk people through. But one of the things people need to make sure they do is have their Google business profile updated. That is now a Google business profile is the new website. 10, 20 years ago, it was like, do you have a website? Do you have a website? And like, if I were to pull up my phone right now and search for something, instead of getting like connections to whatever websites, it would show me a Google business profile of someone. If I specifically went like my CPA, Valentine CPA or Evergreen CPA or something like that, I type that in. What's going to show up first is the Google business profile. There's going to be pictures. There's going to be links. There's going to be reviews. There's going to be all of that is in a Google business profile. And that's what people are looking for. So that is the number one thing you need to do, is make sure you have a Google business profile updated with all the information you need to have. You also need to make sure that your listings are synced up across all different search platforms. Now, we tend to think of, Google or ChatGPT or whatever. There are dozens of other sites, other engines, places where you need to make sure that your listing is listed and is synced up. Because one of the things that happen, like maybe like Yelp or Foursquare and places you've never heard of, and you say, well, that doesn't matter because no one's looking on Yelp for me. It doesn't matter if they're looking on Yelp, because you know who's looking on Yelp is Google and ChatGPT. They're looking on Yelp. They're looking and they're saying, hey, here's this business. Here's this roofer guy. All of these different sites, all of these different listings where we're finding Bob the roofer, they're all synced up. They're all the same. All the information is the same. We have greater confidence in recommending Bob the roofer because all of this is uniform, and clearly Bob's on top of things. So that's number one. That's one of the things we'll talk about. And one of the things you need to make sure is that your listings and your Google business profile are up to date and are synced. Another thing, and people totally overlook this, is reviews and replies to those reviews. There's been a survey that shows when Google's going to recommend somebody, 15% of all the things that go into that, 15% of that comes from reviews that are left on their website. And it doesn't have to be a Google review. It could be any kind of review on your website or somewhere someone can access that. And your replies to those reviews. You need to reply within 24 to 48 hours to any kind of review. So if you ask for reviews and you get responses, someone says something, post that, you reply to it. Google, ChatGPT, they love that. That's like the best thing in the world. So Google business profiles, reviews and referrals, of course, social media. And during the workshop, we'll even go through a little some ideas on how often you should be posting to various platforms on social media. But Google, ChatGPT, they love you posting to social media on a regular basis. They love it when you're consistent in doing stuff, because that gives them greater confidence as well that they can recommend you because you're a legitimate business and you're doing what you need to be doing. And I know some people like Bob the roofer guy again. He might say, well, I don't have a big following on Instagram. It doesn't matter if you have followers on Instagram, because Google is following, Google is watching to see what you're doing. So almost everything we do, we have to remember, we're not doing it for the actual customer, which we are, and that's a benefit, but we're doing a lot of this so that ChatGPT and Gemini and Google and all the different AI tools will see, and that shows them greater confidence in recommending us as the choice that they put out there.
I love it. I'm excited that you're going to do at a workshop site, because I feel like a lot of this, this is like a lot of theory, especially for, marketers. We're always talking about this. So this is like, yes, it's a no-brainer. Like, you should know this already. But for somebody that's like going into business, because I got really good at just like putting that roof, installing that roof. And then now I just happen to need to know about all this other areas of business, whether I'm like hiring already to fulfill that or not. We still need to know these things as business owners. So I'm excited that you're going to be able to work with them on that. Let's talk a little bit about what should be the expectation for the people that are attending. Who is this session better for? Do you have an ideal person, or this company, this size of company maybe, that you think would be better served by attending your session?
Yeah, when when you were talking about marketing agency, probably not as much marketing agencies. Marketing agencies, are operate a little differently. If someone's a business provider, a speaker, a coach, an author, a roofer, an HVAC installer, a cake decorator, interior decorator, and designer, something like that. People who have businesses, people who understand, hey, I want to grow more. I want to have better follow-up. I want to have better visibility, all that kind of stuff. We help people who are solo entrepreneurs, and we have help people who have, 20 or 30 employees, and maybe have, if you're a service provider, might have a few trucks out running around doing stuff during the day. One of the biggest struggles, I think, is, and this is what we'll analyze in the workshop as well, is when there are gaps in a business. There are basically some various stages that someone can look at in their business. Like, we've been talking a lot about getting attention. So when someone Googles you and you get a lead, and everybody who is exposed to you, anybody who sees you or runs across you on the internet, needs to then somehow become a lead. And that's the gap. That's where the problem is. Going from someone who runs across you on a search, but then doesn't engage you. Every time that happens, that someone sees you but doesn't engage with you, that's a gap. And what percentage of those people fall in that gap? Because that's a garbage can down there. If it doesn't bridge that gap, then all that's going in the garbage. If you have 100 people who see you, how many of those people say, yeah, let's chat, or let me learn a little bit more, or let me download this, or let me schedule an appointment, whatever. What's that percentage? Is that 50%? I mean, we'd be happy if we're 50. It's probably more like 98 or something percent of the people who don't engage. And then from those people who engage to those people who buy. And what is that like? Because that's another gap there. And how many people fall in that gap? Yeah. And then from the people who buy to the people who say, that was the most amazing experience in the world. I loved every minute of that. I'm going to give you a referral. I'm going to give you a review. I'm going to do more business with you. And how many people make that leap? And then how many people fall in the gap? If you start with 100, how many people make it clear to the end until they're a raving fan? Like one? I don't know. And then all those people who didn't make that are falling through the gaps. And that's what we want to analyze, is where those gaps are, and then how we can bridge that, and how we can make sure that we have, when somebody hears about you, you get the visibility, the attention. How do you turn them into a lead? What kind of lead magnet you can do? How can you automate that so you're not doing, or someone who's a lead, you've done some business, or they know about you, they're a little more, and how do you get business then? How can we automate that so people don't fall in the gap? And then once they've done business, how do you automate that next step so they give you reviews and referrals and repeat business and stuff? And how do we automate that? Because we don't want anyone to fall in that's the big problem, is all the people falling in the gaps, because underneath those gaps, there are garbage cans down there. And that's how we lose business. So Karen, you just get me going. And then I'm like, I want to make sure that not as many people fall in the gaps. So that's part of the workshop, is analyzing where the biggest gaps are and how we can bridge those with some automation.
I love it. I'm super excited, for everything that you're going to be accomplishing there with everybody. When we started creating Scale with Stability, we really wanted to create this, although it's 700 plus people, right, in one room, learning from people like John Maxwell, Christy Wright, all these amazing speakers that we have, including you, this small environment.
Thanks for that little addendum. Including you. No.
Everybody that we have right here on the screen. But specifically, I'm really excited about this breakout sessions, because this is where that questions and answers, is really where people can make the most out of this type of conferences. Just absorbing information, yes, it's going to create a shift and it's going to create impact in you, but being able to actually get things done while you're in the conference and accomplish things, I think that's going to be an even bigger ROI hopefully for the business owners. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for joining us. If you had to say one last thing to people that are still pending to get their tickets, because we do have a few of those, what will you say to them?
This is the chance to really fix some of the problems in your business. Even if you didn't realize there were problems in your business, this is an unbelievable opportunity to sit down and listen from experts, some of these other great people who I love and have spoken at their events, to sit down and listen to them, learn from them, and then if you come to my workshop, to really come away with actionable items. I hate it. I don't hate it, but I get frustrated sometimes when I go to an event or I see people going to an event and it's a lot of, I don't want to say fluff, but there's a lot of knowledge that gets poured in the head, and pretty soon it overflows and you can't do it. And then you leave and you're like, oh, that was great. That was wonderful. And I'm invigorated to go, but I'm not really sure what to do. So I want to make sure people have actionable steps that we can map out what you should be doing when you leave and you go back home. What are the things that you need to really be doing, putting in place, so that it's not just oh, it was wonderful and I was thrilled and all that kind of stuff. By the way, I love your lineup. Vinny Fisher, I spoke at his event a few years ago. He put it on an event. Daryl Eves, he was one of the first people I spoke to. He just had a birthday this last week.
Yes.
So many of these people who you have one of the best lineups. Everyone's like, oh wait, they're speaking. Oh wait, they're speaking. These are all great, phenomenal people that you've got figured out.
We're definitely blessed, and we cannot wait to see everybody. So if you're pending to get your ticket, if you haven't made the decision yet, this is your last chance really to do it. Go to scalewithstability.com/summit. We would love to see you guys. We'd love to connect. I love the networking part, because really you come out of this event with so many new connections that can impact your business in the best way. So thank you, Darin, again. We're excited to see everybody very